dry ice.
That's one thing about Twitch. Like, whenever you see like subscribers or someone does something like all the crazy
Yes.
madness like happens on screen,
Yeah.
that'd be nice to see. Well, I suppose on
Well,
this platform.
I was about to say, like, with all the subscribers filtering in too,
Yeah.
right? Right.
I'd like to see some sort of confetti. Like,
Do it up post. We need a little post processing and editing.
well, this video takes me 20 hours to edit to get that 20 minutes of pure gaming dad gold.
Yeah.
Not likely. Because we don't need it. Everything we say is gaming dad gold,
All the time.
unedited, unfiltered, dad to dad, game to game. Trying to keep it real.
As always.
As always. Oh, I should give a shout out to Compose this week. I had a chat with him, and I think it gets better message.
It's good.
So I'll give him a quick shout out when we get going. But we're already broadcasting. We're going to start the recording officially. Let's get this new episode underway. We are live. The adult beverages are poured. The kids are asleep. Welcome to New Dad Gaming, a show about fatherhood, gaming, and new fathers figuring out their gaming lives. My name is Trevor, and I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old.
So welcome everybody to the show. The first thing of business is after last week's show, Jeff and I was doing kind of a post-show wrapping up, and we had an idea for a topic of this one, so we wrote down a note. Mm-hmm. And we've arrived at this show, and we have no damn idea what the heck. So the title is Visuals, They Take This Serious. Teach your kids that.
Like,
what are we talking about? What is that?
We're parents here, Trevor. We should really not write like our children in like half thoughts.
This is like you and your buddy go for a couple pints, and then after a number of pints, you have a genius business idea.
Right.
And you wake up, it's like, oh, remember that idea? And this was the idea. It's what on earth?
I'm still interested in what we were thinking. Just what visuals? Are we talking like game art? Like graphics in games? Somebody takes it serious.
Remember, teach your kids that. Like, thanks. It basically, it's either like we wrote this or one of those new copywriting AIs snuck in and wrote us a fancy clickbait title based on SEO. Visuals, they take this serious. Teach your kids that.
I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm all tuned into that show.
I'd click on that link.
Yeah.
Anyways, that kind of buries the lead. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Steam Deck owner, a Steam Dad owner, suppose you could say, in our mix. The Steam Deck has arrived at Jeff's home. He's been living the dream from the tortured situation you found yourself in of obtaining a pre-order to getting the phone call and text message from Gabe.
Right,
he probably works in fax. It's probably a fax message.
Probably fax, yeah, you're right.
Gabe faxes you the fact that you could actually order it and just the torment you went through to purchase it, to the fact that it's in your house now. What is it like owning a Steam Deck, Jeff?
The journey was long, Trevor. There's
long and winding.
Long and windy, a lot of side quests along this way, but it is here. I have it in my hands. It's amazing. It kind of looks like an elongated Game Gear. If you remember Game Gear, it's kind of maybe ahead of its time.
Big cover.
Yeah, it's finally here. I love it. It's just like I'm not gonna go into all the doodads and crazy things you can do with Steam Deck, but as a gaming dad, you can just have this thing like the Switch on the couch. And I can access all those PC games that I lost access to when I kind of settled down, had kids, and gave away my gaming PC was gone. Mm-hmm. So that Steam library was just sitting collecting dust. And this just allows me to get back in there, right? Like, who wants games collecting dust, Trevor? Nobody, right?
The 50 summer sales, Steam summer sales, of which you loaded up your cart to never even touch it. And you have this device that is just purpose-built. It's not halfway a production tool. Like, this is a miniature handheld gaming PC specifically for Steam. Yeah. So you crack this bad boy open. I don't know if there's any interesting stories about the setup process that, gaming dad should be aware of. But besides that, like, go through that. But then also, what did you download? Like, what have you been playing on this? What of your PC library have you dipped into?
Yeah, so just quickly, because the setup process, again, very quick. You turn this thing on, it's like basically, hey, this is Gabe calling you.
Hello. Thank you for purchasing.
Half-Life 3, Episode 3. No, but it was just an easy install process. It installs itself once it connects to your Wi-Fi or whatever internet connection you have. And then you log into Steam, you're good to go. All your games meet immediately there on the homepage.
Wow.
And you can just peruse to your heart's content of what you own and what you want to own. And it already splits them up into categories: what's great on the deck, what's playable, and then what hasn't been tested yet. So right away you know what you can get into, right? Like
It's
without
very nice.
too much, too much friction. But the first game I loaded up is, hey, you're finally awake. Skyrim. No, I didn't. I did not.
Oh,
I
my
did not
Lord.
play Skyrim.
Just like, finally, I can play this game.
No, I was thinking about that. That'd be hilarious to load up Skyrim. I actually loaded up Half-Life as my first game,
Nice.
just to kind of, I think it felt it fit with this. Just like, hey, let's see how this works.
That's a nice homage.
Yeah, and I will say again, gaming dad wise, there are so many options with it. I didn't think the controls would be as good as they are. It's kind of hard to explain, but there's like trackpads on either side, along with the joysticks, and then back triggers, and all that stuff. Like if you don't like the joysticks, you can immediately just control or change the control scheme and put it to the trackpads, or change this button here, or the back triggers can do something different. And there's a whole ton of community controller layouts ready to go. And they're all upvoted and downvoted. So people have already like had this for 8-9 months. And there's a lot of content out there to allow you to play these games. So right away, you're just like in the deck, immediately gaming, no like ifs, ands, or buts, like everything's good to go. And it's a great experience. I cannot. You need one. I don't know why you don't have one yet.
We can't keep doing this. We can't keep like
I know.
promoting each other to spend money. So you will have this, and you will let me know how it continues to go. Like the thing that I love that you said though was it gets you into the game, because I think one of the problems kind of classically, it's gotten better, but classically of gaming PCs was the setup, the drivers,
Yeah.
and then it connects to the monitor. Oh no, my driver monitor broke, so I gotta uninstall. You know what I mean? Just like the chasms between you turning this thing on and then playing your game. Like you get a console day one. Congratulations, we need a 126 gig patch before you're allowed to play it.
Yeah.
You know, like we came to a real point where there was a massive amount of friction between you wanting to play a game and playing a game. You know,
Yeah.
and I think before it was super simple: cartridge, slam it, play it, great. And then even with the discs, there was loading that
Right.
kind of made it a little bit worse. But then as soon as we got into this online stuff, it just got so difficult for us to like dive in and play. Real points of frustration. Now with streaming or with systems like this that just seem so hyper focused on letting you dive in, it's been amazing to see how there's so much focus on letting people like get people into their games. Like go.
Yeah, absolutely. And by no means this replace any gaming PCs out there. Like those graphics are still going to live in that realm, but this just is another tool to allow you to play those games without having to go downstairs or go into another room, sit down at your PC, where it's kind of like you're detaching a little bit, right? Where this thing, pop it on and you're good to go on the couch, right? And they're constantly updating this system. I think when it launched, it didn't have like a sleep mode, like it wouldn't put games in suspend them at all. Now I can put it to sleep, pop it back on, game's already going. Like, so Valve is very good at supporting this thing, which was everybody's worry in the beginning. Like, how far are they gonna support this thing? But they've been going pretty hard on it, and I'm very impressed by the machine, and it feels great. Like, I thought this would be a chunky thing that's like super heavy. It's light. It doesn't make a sound. I do not hear the fans at all unless you have a crazy big game like Cyberpunk or something and you jack the graphics all the way up, then you'll hear them. But I would hear my Switch more often than this thing. And again, you can fiddle with everything in here. It gives you all those PC options that you can control right down to like how much power it's taking to extend the battery life, and like, what performance modes you have going on, and they're per game. So it's got you a lot of options, and I feel that spark again, Trevor. Like, I used to be huge into PC gaming before I really got into PlayStation and kind of dropped the gaming side. And I'm probably the worst candidate for this kind of machine, where I'm into a lot of like real-time strategy games and space sims and stuff. And this thing works with those trackpads. It's amazing. I love it.
Awesome.
It's great. So it's good for anybody's kind of gaming taste, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. Like, even RTSs work on this thing, so I can't imagine like the action adventure or like first person shooters. So
The resurrection dipping back into your gaming PC roots. If you've gone the console route for a while, or yourself just like kind of got out of it, the thought that it kind of could drag you back into it.
Yeah.
And what is ostensibly a beautiful package and a form factor that's been proven to work thanks to the Switch and other kind of handhelds like this. What's been the reaction of your kids? Do they know that you own it? Do they want to touch it? And is Dad letting his kids touch his Steam Deck?
this was an odd one, I will say. I brought the box into the same room as them, and they were watching,
It's just floating behind
just
them.
floating right there, opening it up. I got the scissors. You can hear like the tape ripping off the box, popping it open.
Yeah.
And no matter what system, maybe Nintendo's different, but you know how the PS5, I've always railed against this stupid beep. This thing has a beep. And as soon as that beep goes on, immediately the kids turn and they're like, what's going on? What do you have? Oh my God, is that the Steam Deck? Because they know all about it. So then they come over and see what's going on. And again, that's when it's ticking through its loading stuff to get into the libraries. But they're like, oh yeah, I can play all these games. I'm like, you're not playing with anything yet.
You will do no such thing, sir.
Like, yeah, because I've got this thing out of the box. It's almost like naked, right? Like, it's got no screen protector on it. It's got no grips on it. Like let's leave it alone for now. I don't need an accidental fall, or them getting annoyed with it or something. So it is not being played by them. Okay. It is off limits for now. I will share eventually, but I wanted to like have this for me for a little bit.
Well, you bought your son. This one's a bit tough because this feels like it could be a very personal system, and that's not a judgment. I don't think it's even that selfish. It's sort of, at some point, like, Dad needs his things.
I think
right?
so.
It kind of feels like this is a very, like, you really antagonized about getting it. You made some sacrifices to get it, so it's like, is it so bad? Especially since you bought your kids a gaming PC as well. It's like, is it so bad if this is Dad's little system, Dad's little corner of happy?
I like that line of thinking, because I agree with it. I think
Just like that.
Dad needs something, and we played a round of Terraria against each other. I played on the deck, they played on their PCs.
Perfect.
So I think they're used to that. Like, if Dad can play without moving from the couch, or moving his morning coffee away and going down to the basement to play on his Mac, Dad can play anywhere. And so let Dad have the Steam Deck, because it makes me happy too if Dad can play with us on our games that we want to play. So
a happy dad is a happy household. Frankly.
that's right.
So it'll be fascinating. Like, I suppose I'd be curious to see. I don't think this will be very often, but you'd have to imagine in some households there's like, it started to become. I became aware of some households where there's 2 to 3 switches.
Oh yeah.
Especially with the Switch Lite, because that started to get down, like, used. You can see those for like 120, 150.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So it's not wild to think that you could have 2 kids with their own like Switch Lites, and then Dad
Right.
has kind of like the original one. I
Yeah.
wonder if this starts to get into the place where like the whole family is just decked out. Like, if I may.
It could work.
Yeah.
I like it. We could all deck ourselves out, right? That'd be perfect.
Deck,
That'd be
deck
fun.
the halls, buddy. We got this.
Deck the halls. Yeah, we could have old-fashioned LAN parties, but with all our Steam Decks.
God, does it have a LAN port? That would be fabulous.
It doesn't, but the dock is supposedly having one.
There you
so, I mean, come on. We're getting back into those old... Remember those old multi-tap ports for, like, the PS2? Like, we're going back almost backwards in time to get those kind of docks to work with these remote
Oh
machines.
my lord! So what you have to do? So, Christmas Eve, You treat the family to a fine Swiss chalet dinner. The whole family, all four of you, bring Steam Decks, and you just have these LANs cables running amongst the Christmas chicken and Swiss chalet sauce.
Yeah, the festive
What a
feast.
beautiful, what a beautiful post-apocalyptic scene.
You send that postcard to Gabe, he's gonna come over and just congratulate. He'd be like, "Guys, this is an amazing ad for my next Steam Deck 2 that's coming
Yeah.
out in a
Please,
couple of years. You're
please
gonna be on the
find
A
enclosed
list."
a $10 gift certificate for Swiss chalet next time you go.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh man, good on you! Congratulations! If any gaming dads out there have themselves dipped into the Steam Deck, we'd love to hear about it. Reach out to us. Like, what's your story been like? What's your unlock? Has it rekindled your old PC roots? And are you allowing your kids to play it?
big
Reach,
question.
reach out to us at newdadgaming.com or at newdadgaming. I wanted to give a quick shout out to a friend of the show, longtime listener, Jeremy. Had an opportunity to chat with him a little while. He's in the throes of toddlerdom.
Oof.
Like, remember when life sucked, Jeff? Just
Yeah, yeah,
what I dis is one of my I've mentioned it many times on the show, but I vastly dislike the notion that like every moment of parenthood is a joy and precious and it's wonderful.
right.
Some parts of it just absolutely goddamn suck.
Yeah,
Really sucks. And I'm not even he wasn't even coming at it from a big complaint standpoint. Let me like put it. Like loving his kids, loving family life, that's great, but you can just tell it's those moments of like I'd kind of just like to go for a coffee.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. Like that just that bare like you're at that point where it's just I want a little bit of life left. And what I say to dads is I always say, and like a special shout out to Capozzi, he's doing Jeremy, he's doing a great job. Keep it up. It gets better. Like to any gaming, and I'm telling you, he was so nonchalant and wonderful and amazing. And I know he's an amazing dad, so he was not even laying it on thick. I suppose I threw myself in there about how much I hated some of those times, and I
yeah.
hated the social pressure to be like, no, everything's wonderful, and I love my kids, and this is all great. No, it's
Not in
not.
toddler phase. I
It's
remember not
just
being
like,
able. I couldn't go to the bathroom without
oh my
like,
lord.
they're trying to get in, or they're like, you're afraid that they're gonna touch. You had to pee with the door open because like, who knows what they're gonna get themselves into in 5-10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And driving like just to get groceries, and you're like exhausted, and you just sit in the parking lot and you just stare out the window for like a minute, and you're like, I just need the break. This is great. I'm gonna enjoy this, and then I'm gonna go back.
Yeah. So it was like I dislike it, and like all dads went through it. All dads swore up and down, hating a particular moment.
Yeah,
And it's just like I sleep in on Saturdays now
yeah,
because my
right.
kids wake up and they go downstairs and they serve some cereal and they play a game because it's the weekend. I get to sleep in. I sleep in. Are you hearing the words out of my mouth? It's like, it means it gets
It
better.
gets better.
Jeff is playing Steam Deck with his kids.
There you go.
Frankly. You know what I mean? So, yeah, look, gaming dads out there, if you're going through it, there is no guilt, there is no shame, there is no judgment. It really sucks sometimes. And
Yeah,
there's a lot of great, precious moments, like memories I'll always keep forever that I absolutely love, but like some awful ones too. And everything's a phase and everything just keeps getting better. So
yeah.
stay strong, keep it going. Hey, Jeremy, friend of the show, you're an amazing dad, amazing guy. Keep it up. Now, what's not an amazing guy is Google. And
As a parent,
as a parent of products that they like to put out,
yeah,
and
they keep pumping out these kids. Look at them
abandoning them to the wild,
all the time.
so that one of our internet connection will go down now that we besmirched Papa Google. But news broke this week, and we don't try to cover news because we try to be more timeless in the fact that this is about fatherhood and gaming and like going through the throes of particular stages of fatherhood.
Yeah,
But this more covers a juncture in our gaming lives where it's moving to the cloud. There's new ways to consume games and media. And Google Stadia was one such method of game streaming.
right.
So we live in a time where Xbox was out the gate, probably about the strongest, Nvidia now, PlayStation came out with their offering, Google Stadia. Everybody's competing. I really dislike this service. I love game streaming, right? Xbox Game Pass has been the greatest value I've ever got from gaming. It's brought me back into so many games. Play it fast. Just download whatever you want. Like zip, zip, zip. Fantastic, right? So
Yeah.
I'm coming from this from a side of loving game streaming. Like Google Stadia to me never made any sense, in so much as, so you want me to buy this game for full price, just pay you full price for this game. I'm going to purchase it, but then I have to pay you monthly to access it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like buying quarters for an arcade, but then also to get back into the arcade to use a quarter, you have to pay at the door every time.
Right.
It's like, what are we doing here? And then very much everyone was very worried that this particular case, if it shuts down, what happens to my money and my content and my games?
Right.
And here we are. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know, how did it strike you when this all like came out?
It wasn't shocking. I don't think anyone was shocked. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Surprised.
it was about that time, like they're gearing up for like their third birthday or something, and nope, dad's gone out for milk and not coming back. So they just left Google to their I don't know, it's just one of those things where the streaming, like you said, is great. I think they put a lot of this technology into like Teams and Hangouts, because I find their video quality for that stuff is amazing, and maybe that's part of this system. But I was immediately like concerned for everyone that dumped money into this thing, like early adopters and people that wanted to get it going, and sponsoring it and all sorts of stuff, right? Like people kind of banking on Google, like they've got enough money to throw at this thing to try and break into the industry. And like you were saying, like the value proposition that they were putting forward wasn't great. If you're going against somebody like Microsoft and Game Pass, or like, why do I have to buy things in the way that I do? And then when they go belly up, what happens? Luckily, Google is refunding all the money if you bought the games and controllers through their stores. Anything else, you're screwed. But through their stores, they will refund. So I felt that was at least trying to make people whole, maybe trying to come out with some good PR to the brand in case they, have a rebirth of this
You
in a
guys are
few
doing it
years.
again. Yeah.
But
good
that
luck.
that was a good thing that they did. Sucks that the service kind of went under, but we'll see where it goes from here. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we can absolutely give them that. That is doing right by the customer. Because if it was just, you're out of luck. Like, especially even if it was just the hardware or just the games,
Yeah.
the fact that it kind of seems like carte blanche, like the whole thing, no matter what, fine, just like get your money back. Except like you said, if there was like some third party, whatever. It feels like you had to, because like just man, it's like the amount of crow you'd have to eat after
Yeah.
getting people, like hyping people up, like supporting it, them paying you money, then just ripping it away. Woof.
Yeah, and how do you do any other product again with people's trust, right? Like, look what you did, right? So I think they're trying to come out with something on their side, some positivity, but I've heard a lot of people even like the controllers and they want them to push an update so they can use controllers in other systems, right? Because right now it's locked to their service. I think because of a latency issue or whatever. So they want Google to like, hey, we want to use these controllers. Like, maybe make nice with the community and see if you can go out, not on a high note, but like on some other note than like, oh man, like
Yeah, as
3 years is the count for everything.
as much positivity as they can garner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it bodes well for the rest of streaming, if I'm honest, because the backlash to this, the disappointment, the gotcha moment is like, haha, like we told you this is what would happen.
Right.
I think it probably puts. I'd be curious to know what you think. I think it puts the others on notice about what they can do and what they can push. Right. So like, I think you can kind of gauge the sentiment online of like, okay, how's everyone feeling about how this has gone down? And then when Xbox is making some decisions about, okay, pricing or exclusivity or blah 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 to their Game Pass, it's like we better play carefully. Like we kind of see at the edges what doesn't work. So we best like kind of play within the line of what people actually want and accept. Do you think this will harm game streaming as a new delivery method or not matter?
I don't think it'll harm it. It might give people a little bit more pause. Sure PlayStation is probably looking at this along with Xbox of just how, again, they have a better way of doing it. You don't have to necessarily buy those games and then buy to access them. So I think it's a little bit different. But even with PlayStation rolling the dice and making new tiers where one is streaming and the other ones aren't, and you have access to online in a different tier, it says to me that this technology will live on, and me being a new deck owner, I would love if this game streaming came to the deck, right, in like a format that is not so like right now you have to do a whole workaround to try and get Game Pass running. But if streaming were to happen to a portable device, that I think is the wave of the future. I don't think we'll lose, the physical touch of stuff. I think people still like controllers, but whether or not you have a console, and maybe it's just something like the deck, that I think is interesting. And again, it works for gaming dads. I think that portability feature is awesome. But well, I don't think it's shocking that this happened. It's just it sucks, but it's one of those things where you're like, it'll live on somewhere somehow, and I'm sure. What is it, Luna? Is it Amazon Luna?
Yeah.
Is that still out there?
Yeah, I know it exists. I don't know like, what they've done with it. And again, that'd be one, especially as far as watching carefully how people are going to be reacting to this to see it. The portability is great because very much like your Steam Deck, like the greatest thing for Game Pass, for one of the greatest things with Game Pass, and especially since I got the controller from my phone, like it is amazing to kind of be able to play a quick game instead of like just scrolling mindlessly through Reddit or something. Instead, I can play some sort of meaty game, have a great experience. Like I'm there with my wife, and we're speaking. Much like your Steam Deck, like I'm not locked away in the gaming dungeon
Right.
to experience my pastime, and it's with me wherever I go, if I go on a business trip or wherever else. So I find it very enabling for dads. So to see any sort of like smudge on the industry or that particular genre of it, as far as streaming, like hurts a bit.
It
Like,
it does.
come on, guys, I really want this to work. Like, come on.
Yeah. Even like just look at Nintendo with they're risking a little bit doing cloud gaming, right? A lot of those full blown games are the cloud version. So if you get game streaming right, you could play the Witcher 3 cloud version, not like and have no drop in quality because the streaming is so well done, right? So everyone's rooting for this to happen. It's just Google kind of flopped on how it was presenting it.
Yeah. God bless
Throw
you.
money at it. Throw money.
Just do more money. Come on.
Come on.
Next time, dude. What it might have helped me to play is like just to kind of wrap it up here for the week. There was just a funny thing with my kid where he was giving me the gears. I couldn't believe it. Like he was giving me so much shade because we're still both going through Phoenix Immortal. Immortal Phoenix Rising. Oh God, I get that wrong every time.
You better be playing the right game.
Yeah. Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Right.
Which still loving it. It's so great. And to hear him talk about the various gods and to get the blessing, like, okay, how are we going to do this? Like he, on the way to school, will like be strategizing with me. And like I get to seed in some of this history. And it's like, we can read some of these books if you want, because a lot of the stories are like very cool and interesting. So it's fantastic. Love it. I still have it. But he's giving me all this grief. He's like, well, why don't you just play more, Dad? Like, I'm so much farther than you. I've only saved one god in my game. He's saved 3. A point that he reminds me of constantly. He's like, well, Dad, I've already saved 3. Why don't you just play more when we go to bed? He's like, I would if you'd go to bed sooner, son. Just like... It's like, this is like, he still can't wrap his head around like the fact that I work during the day.
Yeah.
And there's like dishes and like lunch prep for at night.
Yeah.
And then I wake up and I'm making the breakfast. So it's like, there is no time, son. It's the whole point of my podcast. It's complaining that there's no time for games. So to hear him just like, well, why don't you play more? And it's like, oh, son, let me tell you the ways.
Well, Daddy could if he had a Steam Deck and was in the car waiting for your soccer practice to end, and you could play a little bit more of Immortal, get those gods beat.
Yeah, that sounds like a terrible dad move. I'll say that. Dad, did you see my game? Click, 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 click. Oh
Totally
yeah,
did.
great. Click, click, click.
I beat 2 gods. What? You beat 2 gods? You'd be the happiest kid alive. What are you talking about?
Getting shade from a kid with no responsibilities and nothing but game time.
Wow.
And why I'm not further. It's like, man.
You need like a good couple days off. Just put in a huge game session. Get it further than him, and just see what he says.
I'm gonna remember this. Everyone that's like that. I'm gonna remember this, and when I'm gaming grandpa.
Yes.
And he has his first child. I'm gonna
there you go.
I'm gonna find out which game he's playing at that point, if he's still playing it when he's an adult,
Be Skyrim.
I'm gonna beat the heck. It's guaranteed Skyrim. I'm gonna beat the heck out of it and ask him why he's not further. Oh,
Yeah.
How dare you? No,
I like
no
it.
respect, Jeff. No respect. Everybody, we'll wrap it up there on that note. Thank you so much for listening. Hey, listen, one of the best parts about this podcast has been the interaction with fans. Like Jeff and I have absolutely adored the messages, the emails, the comments on tweets, everything. So it's something we really like to see. If you're listening to the show and you never reached out, please do. We'd love to hear from you. Did you yourself get a Steam Deck? Are you experiencing it as a gaming dad? Like, what's your experience been like? We'd love to hear about it. Do you have your young son or daughter sassing you about how much further they are or better at a game than they are than you? We'd love to hear that story too. Anything in between. We'd really appreciate it. Like I said, one of the funnest parts about running this show and interacting with great gaming dads. If you have inspirational words for fellow gaming dad Jeremy, and how much it gets better, send that along too. We'll pass it to the good friend of the show. Hey, if you did like the show, the best way you can support it would be to subscribe. You can find it on all of your podcasting networks, so Spotify, Apple, Podcast, Caster, anywhere where you get your podcasts, just search for New Dad Gaming. What really helps to be on the subscription is if you do leave a comment. If you rate and leave a comment on the show, that really boosts the signal. So it just sends it out. We appear in more lists, and we get out to as many gaming dads as possible to hear all the nitty-gritty details of Steam Decks and their failures. So as I said, reach out, subscribe, comment, and can't thank you enough and how much we appreciate you all for listening. Everybody, that'll do it for this week. This has been New Dad Gaming. Until next week, my name is Trevor, and I have a 7-year-old with too much time on his hand and a 5-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. And just remember, just because you don't have a deck
does not mean it's game over. Damn. There's gaming dads with Steam Decks, and then there's the rest.
Look out for our new channel, Dad's on Deck.
Dad's on Deck, yeah. If someone else could please write into the show to create a new podcast with Jeff, and I'll subscribe. All right, buddy.
See you next week.